I'm chilling, bro. I know FOMC was today and all that stuff. That deals with more of like all the macro and shit like that. But it's pretty funny, dude. Like the SEC is wasting all this money on suing Coinbase, suing XRP, suing Gemini, and all these other crypto firms, and it's like you have all these banks that are literally fucking scamming people. You know what I mean, and running away with the deposits, and making it harder for people to conduct day-to-day business. You know what I mean? It's like you're not doing your job. You're actually trying to screw over investors, not protect them. So, I mean, Gary Gensler is doing not the best job, if I were to say so myself, especially given the situation with FTX, man. It's kind of crazy how, like, we've been in an environment where it's like, short the banks, buy crypto. You know what I'm saying? But that was sort of the ethos when you got into crypto, and what was it, 2013, right?
Yeah, 2013. I'd kind of brushed by crypto. I'd been aware of it before then, but I never really started mining. So that's whenever I considered to be getting into it until 2013. So I knew about it beforehand. I had watched it do its shit, and then I really jumped in, and I started like CPU only mining in like 2013. Thing is, like CPU only mining back then still was like very very good for Litecoin, and it was still like reasonably effective for Bitcoin. Um, it was funny because like it wasn't profitable, but if I look back now, I'm just like, holy fuck, that would have been profitable after the fact. And so it's funny now. It's like funny haha, but it's not funny because it's like I lost so much money by just like abandoning a bunch of those wallets that I'd used for that, and like a GPU mining test that I did a little bit after that, where I borrowed a bunch of GPUs from friends and stuff whenever we were at like a LAN party. And like it was so much like wild shit that I look back on and I'm just like, dude, those were moments that if I had capitalized upon them differently, that would have changed the course of my entire life. And like the thing is, you can't think like that, right? Because if you get down into that, you're just like, oh man, I fucked up. I'll never be able to make this back. And instead, the way that I like to think of it, Wabi, is that, bro, if that was a life changing opportunity and I had that opportunity and I didn't know it at the time, can you imagine how many opportunities I'm experiencing right now that like have the potential to be life changing and I just don't realize it at the time? I just think that they're like these dumb little meetings or these dumb little encounters or these dumb little, and so I try really, really hard not to think of anything like that. Like King Wabi, like this space may be like the turning point of my whole life, right? And I have no idea. Just because I'm like talking to someone I'm talking to you, and then someone else in the crowd hears it and they're like, "Oh no, I vibe with this dude Flu has to say." And then like 2 years later, they run across me at an event and they're like, "Oh yeah, dude, I heard you speak on that one Twitter space and like that was cool and I appreciate you. And by the way, I'm running this thing. Do you want to get involved?" And that's just like the thing. And without this first initial like introduction in this way, there's like no way they would have ever remembered me because they'd never experienced like that in that way. Does that sound dumb, Wabi, or is
No,
that like are
it's
you
I understand what you're saying. You're talking about like the social capital within the system, dude, where it's like even something such as a small Twitter space or like a small Discord server, just by interacting with that community, you might meet someone else, right? That like, might benefit you and what you're doing for the space. And even I can relate to that. I was over in I think it was either like Vela. I think I was in Vela's Discord, and I was trying to get in touch with one of their devs, and then I ran into someone that's building on Entangle. It's sort of like this omni chain layered oracle, right? And me and him, got into contact, and I'm like, shit, dude, kill two birds with one stone. So it does help to network in the space when things are more quiet, and also like to not be a dick or to be cocky, man. Like there are still people that think that like they're hot shit, and it's like one day your protocol is like the most fire thing on like Ethel 2 or on Cosmos, and then the next month someone just flips you on your head, just out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And I definitely agree with you on that, man. So with that being said, we can sort of get into like the nitty gritty of what you've been building on Arbitrum. So first things first, man. Like, what brought you to build Granary over in Arbitrum, and why choose Arbitrum in specific, and what's Granary Finance?
So Granary, and what? By the way, the easy thing for like why did I choose Arbitrum? The answer is because Arbitrum needed a really good lending protocol, and like so I like to go to networks that where the need actually exists, where there's not already a ton of like um a ton of options for people, because like that's really what the definition of providing a financial primitive is, right? And so I try to go places where like the portfolio, fuck, man, I can't even speak today. The protocol is actually needed, man. So that's basically it on that. Arbitrum is not one of those networks that like tries to recruit um, developers in with a ton of money and stuff. They just recruit in with like, hey, the tech is good. Let's roll, right? And so that's pretty much what we've been doing. Um, what is Granary? Granary is an Aave fork, and so to speak, like a lending a lending platform that allows for leverage and leveraging like borrowed funds back into the system. And so you can look on the tracker. I haven't done it in a while, but for a while there was like if you added the funds that were basically folded back into the platform, it was like an additional 50% to TVL, which is kind of crazy. And so a lot of people kind of max leveraging on Granary on every other Aave fork. Minvol down there thinks that this is absolutely hilarious that max leverage is a thing. I'm sorry, Minvol, that you or min volume, minimum volume delta, that you believe that leverage is hilarious. Someone might want to go down there and check on them. But yeah, that's basically what it is a platform a lending platform that allows for leverage and refolding onto itself. The reason that is important is because this allows you to naturally long or short assets with leverage on chain in an auditable manner, while earning rewards, which up until this point we have not had any token, and we've went like a year and a half without a token. And the reason that we did that is because we wanted to prove out the model itself as being scalable and able to be self-sustaining, and we have successfully done that. And we wanted to do that without any aggressive Ponzi-nomics, and we wanted to do that without any sort of like really expensive capital acquisition, which is what Aave does. Aave has a cost of capital in the range of like $7 to $9 per dollar of revenue that they bring in. And the reason that they can exist like that, paying many more times of what they're actually bringing in terms of revenue, is because they're propped up by all of the chains that beg them. They're like, please, Daddy Ave, deploy on my chain, deploy harder. Please, God, please deploy now. And they throw millions of dollars at Daddy Ave. And Daddy Ave says, yes, BB, and like pats them on the head and tells them it's going to be okay, right? And like, I'm not sure exactly as to the like real layout of what happens. I just like in my head, that's how it looks because that's got to be what it is because there's no other explanation for how hard people ride Aave into the ground every single time that they deploy on a new chain. So yeah,
Fluid, if you can, would you be able to go into the technicals of the revenue model from Granary?
sure. So something we've already been doing is we've been trying to reward borrowers more so than lenders. And so if you're deposit only, if you're like deposit side only, It means that you put in some money into granary and you're like, okay, well, I deposited a bunch of money and I have a bunch of money that I can lend against, but I'm not actually lending. Um, your risk is pretty isolated. It's just smart contract risk, and then the smart contract risk of any other protocols that we deploy into, right? But if you're borrowing, that means that you're actually you're having to pay the interest rate. That's where the income comes from. That's a pretty hard little three words to say right there. But the income comes from like the generation of interest, liquidation fees, and and then as far as like Aave and a lot of the other places with the token, it also comes from the uh the treasury amount of their token as far as like the increase in value over time. And so those are the three main revenue sources. And so what we've decided, and this is kind of a thing that we got sort of the root of the idea for from Balancer, is that if we applied 80% of the rewards to the side that actually made us money, which is the borrow side, not the deposit side, how would that change the tokenomics overall? And so what we're going to be doing is that we're going to actually be like applying that rule to our emissions to where we actually do 80% of our emissions to people who are borrowing, one in order to try to smooth out the rate that the interest is applied at. And so like we want to make sure to bring down and incentivize the people that are borrowing the most. That way they have to pay the least. Like they have an effective interest rate, so to speak, that is lower than the industry standard, while still providing all of the depositors a higher than average effective depositing rate. And so that's really the revenue model, and that's how we're going to keep that revenue model scalable, is that we're applying 80% of the incentives to the borrow side and only 20% of the incentives to the lending side. And the really, really important thing about that is that that is only max rewarding the people who are already generating income for the platform. And so we're incentivizing the right side there. So we're going to be cutting that number of capital efficiency, or saying that number of capital um, attraction in like a quarter or less. Well, not even a quarter or less. We're gonna destroy it. We're gonna make it so where it's like very very small to do that. To put this in perspective, the amount of money that J.P. Morgan Chase spends for every dollar that they get in revenue is 2 cents, and then you put that against Ave's like $7 to $9, and that's really scary. It's not scalable. And if it weren't for Ave's like partners, if it weren't for all the chains, I don't know how they would continue it. And so I'm really interested to see, once we start slowing down and everyone stops launching their own chain like 30 million times a day, um, how that's gonna go forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree that like the ecosystem on the borrowing and lending protocol side of things does have to become more expansive. I know the situation with Terra becomes like a little bit more out there, but there is some risk when you have a lot of like the liquidity and like the heart of DeFi being in only like one or two protocols, right? So my question to you is, if we want to get into things like security, what are some of what are some like security features that you feel are important that borrowing and lending protocols on DeFi should implement to protect the users?
Well, one of the main things, and the thing that's the most difficult because it takes the most time, and most lending protocols already do a fairly good job of this, but a few edge cases very much don't, is really vetting which assets actually get listed on the platform. And a lot of them are like, oh, okay, it has a chain link oracle, we're good, and that's it. That's the only thing. But the thing is that every single asset that you put up has to be able to withstand attack from any other side, any other asset. And so if you have like a shit coin that you put on there and it pumps to like $40, and then it just starts at spiral, like your lending platform will then be caught in that spiral by people who have like invested a lot of it at the top, and then they're trying to escape, so they're like borrowing other things against it, and it kind of like spirals down. Um, Also, I have a buddy in the back, sorry, in the bottom now from the Bite Masons, which is Samson. Samson, if you could please request speaker so that we can come up here because I have to leave in about 10 minutes, my brother.
Yeah, I sent him an invite to speak. If you want to come up, brother Samson, sent you an invite.
I think that everyone should just call Samson brother Samson from now on.
Yeah, dude, bro, bro. I
Hello.
was actually I was actually in the Discord, dude, and we were all doing like copy and pastas with one another, and I'm like, man, I'm a fan of some pasta, right? And so I started doing copy and pasta, and someone in the group was like, Wabi be like, I don't do trolling, brother, because typically when I talk, I say brother a lot, right? And there have been some instances where I'm like, man, I'm just not in the mood to troll today, and I found that pretty funny, bro. Brother Samson, man, good to have you up here. But I see we have DC also requesting. I'll bring them up. And so, Flu, just to be time sensitive to your scheduling, could you share some of the things that you have in the roadmap for all things granary?
Sure. Absolutely. So, most important right now is actually the grain.sale event. So that's buying into the token. And what's cool about this is that people are kind of deciding their own airdrop here. Um, but I would not expect an airdrop unless you have been using the platform, just so y'all know. However, this is also a really, really good chance to buy in to to a token for this platform that's live on 7 chains, and so it effectively acts as sort of like a an index fund for DeFi. So if you know that DeFi is going to succeed, and you don't feel like using a lending protocol, just hold the token, right? Buy into the token, hold the token, invest it full over time, and just like take profits as you go. And it's as easy as that because if you think that DeFi is going to succeed long term, then like some of the boring shit like this, like lending is not exciting, right? Lending is not exciting. Like a lot of people have asked me this, and they've been like, "Well, what makes you excited about lending?" And I'm like, "Nothing, fucking nothing. I think lending is boring. However, it's necessary, and I think that we can make it more exciting in a lot of different ways, including gamification of not only the systems themselves, but also like every sort of ecosystem that pops up around it. And so, like being able to use lending." In such a way that it's not obvious. So like say if Kataro World or like World of Kataro, I don't remember what the actual name is, but Aaron down there has a Kataro and I wanted to give a shout out, right? I love Kataro, right? And Kataro, dude, those characters 100% at some point are going to be featured in a game. So you have this Kataro running around in this metaverse game or whatever, and they find like a little bag of coins, right? But this bag of coins, it turns out, is actually like a position within Granary where it actually is worth like $20 in USDC, but that $20 in USDC is the interest bearing because it's a position in granary, right? And so using NFTs, using positions within lending platforms, within anything really in that way of where what you're doing is actually representative of real value. That's like DeFi 3.0, so to speak, the thing that hasn't actually started yet because we've gotten DeFi 2.0 and we've gotten DeFi 1.0, and right now, like fucking Aave is still stuck on like DeFi 1.0 sort of shit. We really need to start entering the age where we make things compatible with other systems, and it's also systems that are more fun, and that things like that include games, metaverse stuff, and um, and just side note, I fucking hate the metaverse, right? Like it's a stupid phrase, but it's an awesome experience because the real metaverses that we see today are like Final Fantasy 14 and Grand Theft Auto Online. And a lot of people would argue with me and be like, "Ah, that's not a meta." Yes, it is. It absolutely is. You're spending like dozens of hours of your time. You're spending your money on this digital representation of yourself that you're super proud of. My brother-in-law has spent like 2,000 hours in GTA Online. How is that not a metaverse? That's where he spends his time. That's where he socializes. That's where he does everything that he like, is proud of and, like, has worked towards and represents him online. Like, he has a car collection, and then he's, like, really fucking proud of that car collection. He's worked on, like, how to display the car collection and has taken pictures of it and posted it on his Facebook, and, like, that is part of his identity. It's crazy, and yet it's exactly what everyone is hoping will happen with the metaverse.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, man, is to make the fucking platform actually fun. Excuse me for the curse words, but like there's a reason why. I mean, I know Harmony had their fucking bridge hack, and there's a whole lot of problems with them. But from what I understand, and also from the personal use that I interacted with the platform on DeFi Kingdom, is because the thing was fun, dude. You had your little character, you had the music. It was very reminiscent. I know you had mentioned Final Fantasy. It was really reminiscent of like those early Dragon Quest games, the Final Fantasy games, RuneScape, and all those things. And that was sort of like the idea, right, of what can happen. And typically with like these crypto cycles towards the end, you'll have like that last wave of innovation carry on to the next market cycle where it carries on throughout the entirety of it. So if you remember products like Neo, Wanchain, all that crap, that was really going parabolic towards the end, and like the social awareness and all that stuff, and of course price. um what carried the cycle after that were like the real layer ones that were actually having a platform where it was tangible, right? Where you were able to interact with it, right? Like your Solanas, your Avexes, your Arbitrums, and all that stuff. And I feel like in the next wave of innovation over the next few years, you're gonna have these DeFi platforms have a user interface where they take the likeness from the quote unquote Web 2 world. And I share your dislike and your disdain for words like Web 3. It's sort of like this meme. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I agree with you on the whole like metaverse aspect, and I think there's a way to combine the two. And I believe the most important feature is user interface. Hands down, it has to be user interface.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to note for people, like King Wabi was talking about DeFi Kingdoms. For those of you who are not aware, I was actually like I'm hero number 14 over at DeFi Kingdoms. I did all of the initial marketing strategy, and then after that, I kind of helped create the Bard program, and which is how we like paid out our influencers for being influencers. And then I did all of the initial business development. I was the business development manager there, all the way up until the point where they moved to Avalanche, which is a deal that I facilitated as well. And so I did a lot for DeFi Kingdoms. I wasn't a super huge fan of their aggressive tokenomics, and I kind of took issue with that and ended up leaving. But I'm actually now involved on another Dex. I don't think I've announced this super publicly yet, so y'all are going to be the one of the first to know. But over on Arbitrum, actually, I've kind of made a new home, which is particularly important for this discussion because this is kind of Arbitrum Center. But mindgames.io, um, massive fan of the team there. They're still learning, right? They're still most of the team is not Web 3, which is something that was true of DeFi Kingdoms as well. And they're a bit reactionary to kind of community sentiment at the moment. They keep on changing things they don't really need to change, but very excited about their future. They don't plan on having the same thing forever. They're a Dex and they respect that side of things. They're very like they're trying to be very conscientious about the types of pairs that they're adding and everything. And so I've been helping out there. And then
Blue, do I have the right
yeah.
link up on the Nest? Mind
Let me
Games, is
see.
that the one?
Oh, it's not loading in for me yet. um, um,
It looks right. Hey, Flo, have you
yep,
gone over
that's
the
it.
rehypothecation stuff? Not to interject you too much, but
No,
I,
actually, I
I
need you to interject
yeah,
because
because
I need to get
when you were
running.
saying there's nothing exciting about lending, I almost wanted to just blart all over you and
Oh, you
tell
can blart.
everyone that we're I think hopefully entering a phase with Granary where with Granary V2, which is basically completely designed, it just needs to be audited, hence grain.sale. But what it essentially does is, King Wabi, are you familiar with Balancer, the decentralized exchange?
Yes. That was sort of like my first exposure to DeFi was the initial
Nice.
platforms like ETHLand, Synthetics, of course, Uniswap, Balancer,
Yeah.
Maker, Compound, all that stuff. I'm familiar with all that, and of course, like Curve, that had a horrible UI, and I see Flu has dropped off.
It was definitely unique, wasn't it?
Yeah, man.
It
Yeah.
felt like it really felt like the start of the internet again. But I want to stick with Balancer for a sec because they have a technology called boosted pools, which is it basically allows instead of having two tokens in a pool, they have like these. It's essentially four tokens, and the other two tokens are an interest-bearing version of the original asset. So you would have USDC, and then you would have this wrapped USDC, which is actually being lent out to say like an Aave. So when you go to Balancer, one of their most popular pools is, or it used to be, I haven't looked in a while, it was like an Aave USD pool, and it was essentially lending out that unused liquidity that was just sitting in the exchange, right? Which was essentially dead liquidity when there was no one trading, so it's not earning anything. Well, Granary is bringing that innovation the other way around. So now when you deposit, not exactly now, but after the audit, Granary V2 will launch and users will be able to deposit their collateral, borrow against it, and any unused collateral will actually be sent off to a yield strategy to then earn additional interest. So the idea here is to just improve the baseline capital efficiency of all the money in DeFi. Because if you look at Bitcoin, for example, you don't really get very much for taking on all that risk. People don't really like to borrow Bitcoin unless they're shorting it, and yields are typically like, if you look on Aave, I mean, they just have a lot of money just sitting there, not really doing anything. So with Granary, we're hoping to change that paradigm and bring in more of a space where the dollars can actually be used much more effectively all around DeFi. And what will happen is Granary will, through that service, always be able to offer the most competitive yield. Because if someone else, like let's say on Optimism, there's a fork of Compound called Son Finance or Sonnet Finance. So let's say Sonnet Finance has like very high yields because their market's being, a lot of their collateral is being borrowed. Granary can actually then deploy some of its assets in Son and essentially take that yield back to users of Granary. So, you know, the competitive advantage of Granary is that ideally you just never really have to move it ever again because the collateral is working so hard, it's earning you so much more. And we're designing an incentive structure that will always ensure that borrowers are paid more than just suppliers as well. So you're incentivized to actually use Granary and generate interest for the platform, as opposed to just kind of park your money and hopefully forget about it. So I just wanted to touch on the rehypothecation. I don't see Flu anymore. I wonder if
Yeah,
we lost him.
he had to go.
No worries.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like the model of the space was going to be like half of it was for Flu's projects, and then the other half was for Byte Mason material. So
Oh, okay.
glad to have
Go.
you here. And for the guys in the
Yeah.
audience, if you guys want to see more information on all things granary and also the product that Flu had mentioned, they're up here on the Nest, Mind Games and Granary. And if you guys enjoy spaces like this, my name's Wabi. I host these spaces throughout the week because Bitcoin, and we talk about a variety of topics and sometimes have founders, devs, people from VC across everything crypto. So I see we actually have some questions. Samson, this comes from DC. If you can borrow against a V token with Granary, and I'm assuming that's from the V33 stuff, yes?
Oh, yeah. I don't really understand the question. Sorry. What token is it?
Uh, V token with Granary. If you can borrow against VE token with Granary. I believe it's like the V33 model from
Sure.
Arc,
Okay.
like solidly, like the
Yeah.
solidly
Okay.
token model.
Currently,
Yeah.
to get a asset listed on Chainlink, each token needs to have its own Chainlink oracle. So if Solidly was to get to a point where they have so much consistent trading volume that Chainlink is supporting them, then our system can integrate quite easily with it. Obviously, we would have to create a parameter structure that made sense for that particular asset, and we'd have to assess that at the time. But Granary can be configured to support any asset that makes sense, makes dollars and cents to do so. So, for example, Arbitrum token will be available on Granary Finance almost instantly. I know that the Chainlink Oracle for ARB token will probably come quite quick. If you think back to the Optimism token, I think they skipped the initial 30-day waiting period for them. So hopefully the same thing happens, and Granary can be one of the first places where you can come and leverage your ARB tokens in other ways if you wish. But no specific V tokens are supported at the moment on Granary.
Cool, man. If you want to tell us a little bit about Byte Masons, feel free to do so as well, man.
Okay,
Would love
sure.
to get into all things relating to Oath and Reaper Farm and things of that nature,
Sweet.
man. It's pretty cool, man. This is like the first time that I'm interacting with a dev or someone affiliated with a protocol that has something to do with the Phantom platform. I think
Oh,
from
okay,
like
wow.
all
No
the,
worries.
I think from like all the alt layer ones, dude. From all the
Yeah.
alt layer ones that came out last cycle, I think it's really like Phantom and Avax that survived the whole thing are going to make it for the next cycle and still have users for when liquidity is rampant
Mm,
in the market.
mm. Yeah, I mean, like for me, it took experiencing Phantom for like DeFi to be practical. I kind of discovered Ethereum and realized I was priced out, basically. Um, and when I found Phantom, I was like, holy moly, this is like essentially Ethereum, but at a fraction of the cost and promises all of this innovation. Like, I wasn't sure if that was to be true, but as I investigated the network, I found this talented group of developers, the Byte Masons. I'll clarify for you that I'm not a developer. I'm like the guy that talks to all the Byte Masons to make sure that they're going okay and all aligned. So I'm not the most technical person, but hopefully I can answer any questions here today or follow up on any otherwise with you. But yeah, we are a team of 25, 15 of which are smart contract developers. That's quite unusual for projects. Usually projects will have maybe one dev or two. And the reason why we have 15 is because we have a lot of ambitions. The main ambition is a protocol called Ethos Reserve, which is it basically is a place where you can deposit your Bitcoin and Ethereum and mint a note that is worth $1 of that collateral. So think very similar to like an LUSD token. But similar to the granary rehypothecation I was describing earlier, that Bitcoin and ETH is actually sent off to, it's a Reaper multi-strategy. So all of the products you're going to discover, or all the different protocols rather, they all kind of are built on this principle of how do we make money or the capital as efficient and secure as possible. And it all started with Reaper.farm, which was the original protocol that most Oath users or people on Phantom would be familiar with. It was a fork of Yearn. And the reason why it was popular was Yearn was not available at the time. And Reaper did all of the pairs that you wanted. It was quick, reliable, and most of all, the team was really friendly and genuine, and they gave out information for free. So we built quite a good following of authentic people who just wanted to sort of compound their gains. And over time, built out this schematic for a way to basically leverage Reaper Farm in as many ways as possible. So one of them is Granary Finance, where you can lend and borrow against your collateral, and the underutilized assets are sent off to Reaper to farm additional yield. Ethos Reserve is another. It's a CDP backed stablecoin. So it's a collateralized deposition stablecoin, which again sends off the assets to earn extra interest. Then there is a protocol called digit.xyz, which is available on Phantom only in beta. And I don't mean to overwhelm you. We can come back to any of these, but Digit is essentially a replacement for the MasterChef technology, which, if people aren't familiar, when you create a liquidity pool position and then you stake that in the farm, like that is called a MasterChef contract. And basically it handles the distribution of incentives. So currently incentives are poorly distributed, let's say, for lack of a better term. If you talk to protocols, they will complain to you about mercenary liquidity. So people that will deposit their liquidity, take all the incentive, just dump it, and then go off to the next best place, the next day or whatever. And the result is that rates become really unstable. Like there's a lot of wasted time, money, and energy, really, moving all this money around. Like we need to create better solutions. And we also need to, the market response to that problem was, let's have everyone lock their token, and that's when the VE voting escrow model came in. Like you lock up for 4 years, let's say, and then you get to vote and have a say on how things are run. Maybe you get like a cut of the protocol fees or something, which is great, and it starts really good. The APY is great, and then all of a sudden, there's a bit of FUD, things turn, and now you're stuck in this contract essentially with no other arbitrator, except for time, and you basically have to wait or hopefully sell your NFT, because luckily these positions were NFTs, but you're usually taking a haircut, right? So it kind of put users who are operating in the most volatile space, which is crypto, into this bad deal where if things were going wrong, they couldn't even get out. And so it seemed a bit predatory. So the alternative that was presented is a software called Reliquary, which is implemented in Digit. Digit is essentially the abstraction of this emission software, and is used to emit oath. And so what Reliquary does is the moment you stake your liquidity position or any other asset, it could even be used in a game, for example, you then, the contract will take note of your timestamp on entry, and you will progress through tranches of time, earning presumably more reward incentive the further you stay in. So the idea is, let's just pay you more if you've hung out longer, basically. And there's no lock. You can withdraw at any time. So if things are going wrong or you want out, you just can. But the idea would be that you don't. Instead, you just stack up this maturity bonus, and transfer your time into a value, and then sell that to other speculators who want that additional yield. So there is a protocol on Phantom called Beethoven, which is a fork of Balancer, and they have implemented this software in their governance system, and it's called MA Beats, and that stands for Maturity Adjusted Beats. And the entire position is wrapped up in an NFT. So it's quite impressive, because you could then take that NFT and collateralize it in, say, Granary. And then you could borrow out against your relic while it still increases its position size underlying. So anyways, I'm sure I've made a bit of a word salad out of all these different products, but what I'm trying to illustrate is we've essentially created all of these different tools and softwares that will allow us to optimally incentivize user behavior in a way that previously wasn't really available to DeFi, without forcing users to overcommit to a 4-year lock or something like that. So it's quite an exciting paradigm shift. These things are all sort of coalescing at the moment. They've been in development for well over a year now. And yeah, digit.xyz is the open beta of our Reliquary implementation. I'd encourage everyone to come check it out. It's not perfect, but it will be in a couple weeks, I think. And yeah, we're really excited to expand that out, and it will basically serve as the easiest way for us to distribute oath incentives in the most optimum way. So there's a couple like different. I'm not sure where you want to go, but if you want to ask me about a specific product, maybe we can dive into that, and I can even explain some of the like crossovers between all the protocols towards the end.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem, man. We can bookmark this specific topic for a future space. One thing that I'd like to do is grab resources from other networks like Phantom and see what I can do on my end as far as like pairing teams from Arbitrum and Optimism and even Cosmos and see what cool ideas we can come up with. And one thing I'd really like to explore is user interface as far as like mobile integration. And so, what I'd like to ask you is there any product out there that can serve as a universal wallet, sort of like a more improved Argent wallet or Coinbase wallet, where the user is able to have all their assets in one wallet without having to constantly bridge from going to protocol and just having everything in one clean, sleek UI? I wanted to ask you about
yeah,
that because
I
I
mean,
know one
yeah,
thing that I know one thing that Phantom developers really prioritize is the user interface, and I believe that like mobile integration is the next phase, right? Like we already have the clean UIs on desktop, laptop, right? Now the next step is mobile integration, like accessing all these protocols with a click of a button, right? And I think like something that's really cool, right? Trust Wallet, they have Thorchain in the background where it's like you're using Thorchain on the back end, but the front end user doesn't even like recognize that. They're just using the product in front of them. So I think those implementations are cool, and you're naming a lot of names that I'm familiar with, right? Like Beethoven, I'm very familiar with them, and I've posted Ethos Reserve. I know he had mentioned that up on the Nest, and also of course by Masons for people that want to familiarize themselves with all these things that you're saying on a more deeper level. But yeah, man, would love to know
yeah.
about
It would
anything
take hours
that
to
you would
like
know.
dive into each of these. So I really respect that, and I'd encourage if there was one protocol that everyone should check out, it should honestly just be the Ethos Reserve protocol, just because it's launching on Optimism soon. It's the most relevant to the current market conditions, and it'll have probably the highest impact in DeFi overall out of all the products. Because as people may have realized, we kind of need an alternative to USDC that can scale much more efficiently. So we think this is designed in such a way that it can do so. So really want everyone to take that one home, Ethos Reserve. Please check it out and give us your feedback. But yeah, in terms of like, is there a wallet that can do that? I mean, if there was, please tell me. I don't think that it's there yet. One of the 5 projects that we have ongoing is actually to fix that problem. So we have the code name for it is Moon, but it'll essentially act as like it's like core infrastructure for DeFi that we think is missing to give users, like you're saying, that experience of being on a blockchain without even knowing it. So we want like notifications, cross-chain messaging without users having to even worry about it. And yeah, I mean, Moon is quite far away, so there's no point digging into the specifics really. But it's about 7 months in development now, and is um, quite exciting. I just don't really know the best way to communicate it to everyone yet, because it's still at quite a technical level, um, and I need it diluted even for me, so that I can better communicate the advantages and how it will hopefully change and make the acquisition of users across all of the other protocols that I've described briefly much easier and much more cost efficient. Because you look at the cost of getting $1 into Aave, and when you consider the incentives that they're actually paying, it's about $9.92 per $1 revenue that they make. So they're actually losing out quite significantly. If you compare that to like a JP Morgan, they pay 2 cents for every dollar they get, as in their money is making so much more that they're in profit, obviously. So we need systems in DeFi to catch up and bring that gap closer. And Moon is going to be a part of that because, like you're saying, we need account abstraction. We need, clear transactions that show exactly what's happening. Things like integrating AI to make finding information on the blockchain easier. That's what users, I think, are looking for in a wallet. Apart from that universality that you're describing, I think that's going to be a game changer. But yeah, if you find it, hit me up because definitely I don't use mobile. With that said, I think digit.xyz is pretty good on mobile, and the rest will be soon too. I mean, more and more we check out how many users are on devices periodically, and it is a growing trend that more and more people are, on an iPhone, for example. So it needs to be catered for because most people, if it's going to be the tap and go solution that I think many people are hoping it will, we got to get that right. So yeah, definitely a big roadblock in terms of widespread adoption.
Yeah, man. The way I'd like to explore this is by doing mega spaces. So if we can get a few people from Phantom, a few people from Arbitrum and Optimism, and sort of have like a collective thinking tank, right, and shoot some ideas and talk about some developments that are going on, I think we can make something happen on that end. And I'd love to expand my knowledge on what's going on in Optimism and Phantom. I'm more into the Arbitrum stuff at the moment, but slowly but surely,
Yeah. Have you checked out Ramses yet? Ramses.exchange?
I have not, dude. The only thing that I'm really aware of as far as Optimism, I
No, this
know.
is on Arbitrum.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry,
No,
dude.
that's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
There's so many
Wow,
these days. You can't
there
keep
there
up.
truly is so many protocols
There's
that
actually another one
I can't
coming
keep up.
called Chronos.fi, I think, or ChronosFI underscore might be their Twitter or something. But these guys are coming soon. And they're actually implementing reliquary. So if you remember that digit.xyz protocol, it uses the software reliquary. Well, and so does Beethoven. These guys are also adopting reliquary into their solidly implementation. So that's quite exciting for me. I think it's a real step towards a more general adoption of the software. Really looking forward to that. If you're big on Arbitrum, check them out. And otherwise, Oath is on Ramses and is going really well. If you want to, get some RAM exposure, check it out. They're a pretty good team too. So yeah, loving Arbitrum. Such good vibes at the moment. Everyone coming in to try and get on the next round of airdrops. Should be pretty crazy. We'll see what happens.
I'm familiar with Kronos. Correct me if I'm wrong, but their tech is behind crypto.com, right? They work with them very
No,
closely.
no.
Or is this
I
another
can't.
Kronos?
This must be a new thing. Because I don't think they're doing any of that high end infrastructure work. This is just a solidly implementation, like a VE33 exchange.
Ah, okay.
So
Well,
not that
pardon me.
intense. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a much newer thing.
I see. Well, yeah, man. I'll do some reaching out and see what they're about, and yeah,
Yeah, hit
hopefully
up.
have
I
them on
mean, I'll try and
space.
get someone more technical. If you guys want to do brainstorming UX problems. But yeah, you can hit me up on the DMs or whatever when you've got an idea of a time, and we'll see our availability. But definitely keen to come through. Tell you guys, maybe we can talk a bit about how we're solving some things, or otherwise, brainstorm some other solutions, and yeah, see if we can push the space forward because it is the biggest challenge is UX, and making people just use crypto without using crypto. So yeah, thanks. I appreciate the time. It kind of caught me off guard. I didn't mean to be late or anything, but yeah, I appreciate you inviting me up and give me an opportunity to meet everyone here. And yeah, if my DMs are open, hit me up on Discord otherwise, or if anyone has any questions about what I was digging into.
For sure, man. For everyone in the audience, thank you so much for participating. If you want to go ahead and give Samson a follow and check out everything that Ethos Reserve and the Bite Masons are up to, feel free to do that. And we'll have a replay of the space almost immediately up on our YouTube channel Because Bitcoin. And if you enjoy this content, feel free to follow us and turn on bell notifications so you can be made aware of when I do these spaces. For tomorrow's guest, I'll be hosting Jones Dow to celebrate the the Arbitrum airdrop. So that should be fun. That's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be a little bit later because some of the guys are doing some traveling. So um, look forward to that. And of course, we'll be having our weekend bear chain spaces as well on Saturday. So a few things to look forward to. And I'm looking forward to having more of the bite Masons on. Of course, you as well, Samson. And hopefully we can have the Chronos Top 5 folks in and some more people building on Phantom from Reaper Farm and also from Beethoven. Would love to see what's going on in the Phantom ecosystem. It's been a while since I've dug into the latest ongoings. Really, the only thing I'm aware of at the moment is that Andre's been back for a couple of months. So that's always nice, and hopefully some other contributors come as well. Before we go, brother, before we go, man, what are your thoughts on a potential like Danny Sesta comeback? I know that he doesn't really have that good of a taste in some people's mouths, but would love to know your thoughts, man. Are you expecting him to come back? Because if we have Andre
I
coming
mean,
back, if we have Suzu coming back, um, wouldn't that be interesting? A cool timeline. What are your thoughts, brother?
sure. I mean, I think that it'd be very hard for people who have had a taste of this industry, who have had a taste of crypto, to leave. Actually, I think when people say they're leaving, I just don't really believe it. I reckon they've just gone to a different wallet, because you can't really leave, right? It's sort of embedded in your life now, in a way that is like foundational. So for me, with Daniel Lester, I think it's a question of when, not if. Um, I know that the team that was around him is definitely not the same, as I'm aware. So he's kind of like, I don't think he does much of the developing beyond having maybe some ideas or some strategies of how things should play together. So I think that sort of head is valuable all the time, but you need to have the dev firepower to back it up. So I just hope that whoever he aligns with can, execute on his vision. And the same with Andre. Really, like, crypto is about contributing to these things together and being in a team. So I get scared when it's a one-man band doing something. I think that it's important to have other heads in the room and to hold each other accountable. I'm a sucker for synergy. I'm one of those guys. But yeah, I hope that these people can find redemption. I mean, um, without commenting on any specific individual or instance, like, we just need a way for people to, I guess, redeem their characters. And I hope that crypto can still be a positive experience for everyone. We all need to be able to access this stuff. That's part of the whole drive and appeal. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard about Suzu coming back. What's the latest project that he's working on? That's news to
I
me.
I can't say much. I can't say
Yeah,
much, but
I'm
I
not following
did.
it closely enough to have a big opinion either. But I just think it's great that, um, I mean, it's entertaining at least. There's never
Yeah.
a dull day in crypto. Like, you read a headline, at this point, I don't even think my eyes could roll back any further. Some days, but yeah, it's crazy that they can kind of come back still after having so much damage. Um, but we need to figure out how to operate in this space because it's crypto. Like, it's kind of like the Wild West. Like, you don't get to pick and choose who can use it and who can raise on it. Like, we as consumers of the protocols and softwares have to choose who we support and what values we stand behind. Like, it's really comes down to choice at the end of the day. And yeah, that's why I chose the Masons, to be honest. I really fuck with their vision, so excuse my language. But
It's
yeah,
all good,
hope
man. It's all
everyone
good, bro.
has enjoyed the space. Thanks so much for hosting King Wabi. Sounds like you stay really busy, so I won't take up any more of your time.
No
But
problem, man. No problem. Yeah,
thank you very much,
we'll
everyone.
connect on Spaces sometime next week, man, and yeah, talk some more shop. So yeah, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. You can find a replay on our YouTube again. If you enjoy these spaces, feel free to follow us here because Bitcoin. I host these spaces throughout the week. As far as when they're hosted, I'll be honest with you, man. I have no idea. Sometimes they're hosted early, sometimes they're hosted late. But, anyways, man, everyone have a blessed day. I'm gonna go train upper body. I'm gonna do some dumbbell presses, some barbell presses, some lateral raises, some front raises, some chest presses. By chest press, I mean the hammer strength incline plate loaded machine. I'm going to do some lat pull downs. I'm going to do some cable rows, some face pulls, some rear delt flies, some hammer curls, some barbell curls, some tricep extensions, and some skull crushers to finish off for a pump. So, with that being said, man, everyone go out and train hard and take care of yourself. And that's about it for me, man. Peace out, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. God bless you.
The trading current is just math. It's just math. It has a 95.45% hit rate when we deviate outside of CP2 and CN2. All you had to do is recognize that 95% of the time when we get over here, under this blue line, we get some sort of mean reversion. So let's just assume you long right here. 95 out of 100 times, when I buy this, I'm gonna get some sort of bounce. It's just math. Look what would have happened as we move up. Look at the bounce that came after. And now look where we are. If you had just blindly followed the current, you take all emotions out of it, and you say, I'm going to trust the statisticians. You would have bought Dow Jones somewhere down here under 30,000. Depending on how you want to measure it from absolute top to bottom, 20% move. We also have multi-time frame alerts. You don't even have to be at your computer on TradingView. You can ping your phone. Now, the current has some really awesome features, and I would urge you guys to join our Discord to get access to it. We give it away for free as a tool to the community. It's just math. There's really no need to overcomplicate things, not even in the slightest.